This program contains adult content.
Is there a God?
Big atheist.
Really?
What, am I an idiot? Come on.
That yes, it would be nice if you could throw your sins and your responsibilities on someone else. But it's not true.
It looks like far-left lunacy.
I don't believe that it's true that religion is moral or ethical.
You don't need to follow anybody!
It's not human intelligence!
If someone doesn't value logical consistency, what logical argument are you going to give them that will demonstrate that they should?
Welcome to the Godless Revolution. Today is Thursday, May 24th. This is episode 207. I, as always, am Dan Ellis. Sometimes I'm not, though.
Well,
when are you not?
Last week I wasn't, because you weren't here, so I was Matt Mitchell last week.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was Matt Mitchell, too.
How was I?
How are you?
Better than normal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Well, we missed you last week. We were bummed you were not here.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun talking to Mandisa. She's really fucking cool, man.
Yeah,
I like Mandisa a whole lot. Tonight we have Shannon Inglet in studio with us. We'll be talking to her about her life. That's a lot of interesting twists and turns. And I mentioned during her initial talk to Atheists of Utah that it was fun stuff to talk about, and it's probably not really fun to talk about, maybe, but it's interesting. It's really interesting to me and cool, and yeah. So what did you guys do over the last week?
I filmed stuff. We filled a bathtub full of blood.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Real blood?
No, fake blood. Then we had to carry a probably 300-pound camera dolly up a narrow flight of stairs to a second floor.
Mm-hmm.
Not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
How many people were doing that?
We can only fit two of us on the stairs to lift it up the stairs.
Who was at the low end?
Me.
Sucker.
Yeah. I was also the tallest one there, so it didn't make me sense to be on top.
Oh, yeah.
And then the guys at the studio said, yeah, we don't recommend you take these up and down stairs unless you can have about 5 guys on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 2.
Mm-hmm. But you managed.
Yeah. My
so
back.
You felt really accomplished afterward.
My back felt great afterwards.
I'll bet. What did you fill a tub with blood for?
Someone's short film project we were filming Tuesday. So
another midget porn.
Yep. I'll show it to you later, Dan.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm so excited. Does it have spiders too?
It might. We were in an abandoned church, which is actually kind of neat and weird because we were actually standing in the room of the bishop's like office that was all like disassembled. My buddy's like, yeah, this was the bishop's office. And he made the comment before I did. He goes, I bet a lot of kids got fingered in here.
I laugh, but that's so tragic and probably true.
Yeah, that's both like, it's kind of, I'm like, he was saying it like that's a terrible thing. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. If the kids got molested, it was probably in this room.
Yeah. Well, what did you do for fun, Matt?
Not a lot of fun. My alternator went out, so I got to work on that this weekend.
So what's running your body now?
Alternative facts.
What?
Your alternator?
Yeah, mine.
Yeah. Yo, so what's keeping you going now, man?
Welcome to Dad Jokes Thursday, Shannon.
Happy to be here.
Am I a little hot? Is that what that is?
Always.
You're always hot.
Maybe.
Thanks. Check. Nope.
You're good.
Check. Yeah, a little bit.
Well, stop yelling into the microphone.
I'll yell when I want to.
You're fine, I'm sure.
But I did bring this little fun thing that I wanted to read real quick.
Yeah?
Game night at the Robinson house ended in a tie on Thursday when the left-leaning family tried to play the classic Guess Who board game.
Uh-oh.
Using yes or no questions and deductive reasoning to describe and match various pictures of human faces. Players confirmed 8-year-old Teddy Robinson chose the game due to the bright, fun colors on the box. Sources described an incredibly silent scene as the game began when Tim and Wanda Robinson, the first 2 players, allegedly stared at the game board for several minutes before attempting a first question. Is your person, and I'm making a lot of unfair assumptions here, a man? Asked Mr. Robinson before apologizing profusely. I remember this game being easier as a child. Witnesses reported Mrs. Robinson then ventured forth with the first and only question of the round accepted within house rules. Does your person have inherent worth as a human being with inalienable rights ascribed to them? She asked. Game monitors confirmed her husband answered yes with great enthusiasm. However, no pieces were turned down. After deciding that even questions about clothing and the presence of eyeglasses were too objectifying to endorse, the married couple opted to end the game in a tie and let their children take a turn. After an allegedly reprehensible question by young Teddy, however, all members of the Robinson household over the age of 12 responded by shouting, "Race is a social construct," and nodded in unison. Teddy was reportedly forced to sit out and watch for the rest of the night. Mr. Robinson issued a statement earlier today expressing regret in allowing Guess Who into his home. "I'd like to apologize to my family," he said. "This dangerous game says it's for ages 6 and up, and I'm insulted that the folks at Milton Bradley think this is the kind of behavior we should be teaching our children." Robinson later added that his family believes game pieces should not be taken at face value, but rather on the merits of their thoughts and feelings. In related news, the far-right McCutler family, living across the street from the Robinsons, reportedly finished a game of Clue in record time, determining guilt based on color alone.
Where'd you get that?
I actually heard it on Very Bad Wizards, an old episode of theirs.
Yeah.
And looked it up, and I don't remember which website I got it from, but
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's a good show. I like that, and Embrace the Void.
I have not heard that one.
Embrace the Void is very good. It's heavy on philosophy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very good. I want to get Aaron on the show to talk about free will.
Okay.
He's a philosophy guy, and yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Interesting.
He's a determinist also.
So it'll be a lot of fun.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Because we won't have any choice but to agree.
Yeah, but I'm a compatibilist, so I'm just compatible with everybody.
That doesn't mean what you think it means.
Well, and I think he sees Dennett's view on compatibilism as far as free will for the same. I want to say, I'm trying to think of the best word for it. The Dennett's approach to free will and saying that he's a compatibilist is, I think, the coward's way out because
dishonest,
he's afraid of the social consequences. Yeah, it's dishonest. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, dishonest.
Yeah, it's not what he really thinks. It's just that he's trying to protect the stupid masses.
Yeah, like it's like he's very cynical about the rest of humanity. Not that we're not necessarily, but
I am a lot less so since medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, how's that going?
Good.
So you had one that was working okay, but it gave you headaches.
Yeah, the effect was good, side effects bad.
Yeah. And then you tried another one that wasn't working very well.
Uh-huh. This one, the effect is decent, and the side effects are pretty low.
Oh, good.
Although I have a headache today, but...
Well, that's just because you're here. You got to put up with Ryan.
Probably.
Hey. I'm good in small doses.
I went and saw Deadpool 2, so did Ryan.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was so fucking good. Everybody should go and see it. If you liked the first one, you'll love the second one.
I was laughing.
Yeah.
I loved the cameos.
Yeah. Very, very good.
Jokes.
Yeah. The cameos were awesome. There's one cameo that as soon as it happened, the character's on screen for honestly probably less than 2 seconds, but
yeah, it's a flash.
Tracy and I both turned to each other in the theater and we were both like, was that?
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. It was really good. And I know I did some other stuff, but I can't think of what it was. Been super busy with a bunch of other shit going on. But we did receive a message from Michelle Short. Last week we reported on the YWCA backing out of their agreement with TST Arizona. That's the Satanic Temple of Arizona. Michelle Short is the co-chapter head along with Stu DeHaan. And we had reported, based on Jack Maturko's writing on Patheos for Infernal Use Only blog, that the YWCA had decided that they were no longer going to work with the Satanic Temple of Arizona, because there was an anonymous report from somebody complaining about it basically. And so they dissolved their partnership. But Michelle Short sent us a message to let us know that has been resolved. And sent me a link to another article from Jack Maturko out on his blog on Patheos that says, "Hooray for some good news! Last week, the Satanic Temple Arizona chapter and the YWCA of Southern Arizona were on the brink of dissolving their relationship over complaints the YWCA received about working with a satanic organization. In a fantastically classy move, the YWCA reached out to resolve the problem, hear TST Arizona's side of the story, and help build a path forward so the two organizations can work together on shared goals more in the future. TST Arizona and YWCA will continue to collaborate. In a joint statement released by YWCA, both groups regretted the confluence of influences that led to the dust-up, which temporarily left donations collected by TST Arizona without a place to go. Quote, misinformation regarding YWCA's willingness to accept donations from TST Arizona recently hit social media pages and national website patheos.com. Michelle Short, chapter head of TSTAZ, says, quote, there was a miscommunication between TST Arizona and YWCA of Southern Arizona. YWCA leadership was prompt in correcting the misinformation and have assured us that the prior dissolution of our partnership with the YWCA was conveyed to us without their approval. We look forward to continuing to support YWCA's project period and women in our community. Both organizations are taking measures to rectify the false information shared. Jack continues and says that it's nice when things work out and groups can come together and talk out things like grown-ups for a change, isn't it? Our president could probably learn something from that. Just as an aside.
I don't think he's capable of learning.
I don't think he's grown up.
Both are true. YWCA of Southern Arizona's interim CEO, Liz Rabago? Sorry, Liz. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Also stated in the release, quote, YWCA Southern Arizona will continue to receive donations of menstrual products from TST Arizona for our project period drive. Our primary concern and focus remains with the women and families we help every day, which is exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
So I was glad to hear that. Jack's story continues and says, plurality in action. This is a happy example of what can happen when groups are able to discuss their disagreements and miscommunications by staying focused on their commitment to the work that they do instead of finger-pointing for what was, in all honesty, just a mistake. Admittedly, it was a mistake with a big potential implications, so we here at For Infernal Use Only and our cohorts over at Friendly Atheist were quick to jump on it, but all the information we had suggested no other course for us muckrakers. I'm thrilled the groups were able to sort out the problems in their communication chains and that TSTAZ will be able to continue supporting YWCA in the future. And then it has the full text release of the media announcement.
Yeah.
The press release.
So that's good.
Yeah, that is really good. But during pre-show, Ryan asked, what are they going to do about the other
place
group
the other group that they said they were going to donate to in lieu of the WYCA not taking them.
Yeah. So maybe Michelle will reach out to us and let us know what's going to go on there. What happens with that one? Like if they're going to split some of the donations or how that's going to work out. But yeah, I'm glad that they were able to resolve that and that the YWCA has their priorities straight in knowing that they're there primarily to help work with the community and that they can partner with a satanic organization to help people in need, and that's not a problem or shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
All right. No. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we'll come back on the other side and talk to Shannon all about her weird and wacky life.
She's waiting patiently.
I'm not bored.
My name is Mandisa Thomas, and I am the founder and president of Black Nonbelievers Incorporated here in Atlanta, Georgia. You may find us at blacknonbelievers.org. You can also find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Mandisa Latifa. And you are listening to The Godless Revolution.
Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but there is a state where the marriage laws are a little looser. Utah.
Utah? Home of America's most powerful weirdos?
Our lives could be so wonderful there.
In Provo, Utah?
Why would I go to Utah? I love booze, caffeine, and monogamy.
Then that must be it.
So, how many brides will you be marrying today, Mr. Simpson?
Just one.
What, are you gay?
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you, getting to like you, getting to hope you like like me.
So, Mrs. Inglet, I should say, yes?
Correct.
Yes. Shannon.
That's better.
If I may.
You may. I prefer it.
Oh, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing
I think it's
well.
Dr. Shannon.
Dr. Inglet.
Well,
yes.
now I'm just blushing, but thank you.
Hey, see, Dr. Dan, what humility looks like? Ooh.
Oh, that was perfect. I love that. No, welcome to the studio. We're delighted to have you here tonight. I'm so excited to talk to you more about this. I have listened to your talk, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now, and listened to it again today and took a copious amount of notes for questions that I have for you. But for our listening audience, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are here this evening.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. First of all.
Oh, we're delighted to have you here, for sure. Thank you for coming.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's a little weird. I've not done this before, and I'm a little nervous.
Well, you got 3 dumbasses down here in the basement.
You guys are really intimidating. Gosh, where to start? Well, I guess appropriately, I am Dr. Shannon Inglet, but that's just silly. I'm a pharmacist. I work as a clinical pharmacist for one of the major health systems in the state of Utah. Prior to a few weeks ago, I was working as a medication safety specialist. So just working to improve hospital systems, how we deliver medication to our patients and keeping them safe. But I just recently moved into a new role that I'm really excited about, where I'm essentially a human encyclopedia of drug information. So I get to do a lot of research about questions, come up with policy and procedure type stuff, make formulary decisions, or help make formulary decisions. So I'm really excited about it.
So in your prior role, you say you were a safety specialist for that. What did that entail?
Sure. So it just kind of involved looking at our system. So if you think about the medication use process, a physician prescribes a drug. Pharmacy has to prepare, dispense, deliver the drug, and nurses administer the drug. We have to monitor the drug, educate the patients and their families about the drug. And believe it or not, it's a lot of steps, and we're all human, and humans make mistakes. So things can go wrong, amid that process. And so my role was to look at, the different, errors or potential things that could go wrong and figure out, okay, how do we address this? How do we make it better? How do we really shore things up to make sure that our patients are never experience a medication error and don't ever experience adverse effects from a drug that we give them?
Yeah, that's got to be rough because of all of the interactions of different drugs and people taking them the way that they're not supposed to.
Yeah, it can get kind of complicated, but that's one of the cool things about it, and I think that's why pharmacists have such a meaningful role in medicine. I think a lot of people have a misconception, some of my own family included, that pharmacists sit behind, counters and count tablets 5 by 5. My brother.
No, you do it 2 by 2. Don't
I can't count that high. It's complicated.
Yeah, after high school, I dated a woman whose father was head of the Poison Control Center here in Utah for a little while. I think he had 3 PhDs. He was a pharmatox epidemiologist.
What?
He had PhDs in pharmacology, toxicology, and epidemiology. It was Dr. Joseph Veltri. And he ran the Poison Control Center and then started a drug research company on his own where they would do drug testing with people. It was interesting. I always love to say that he was a pharmatox epidemiologist. That was a lot of fun.
That takes practice to say, not to do.
Oh yeah, it's been years and years and years. I've been out of high school for a little while.
Really?
Just a few years.
5.
That 5-year reunion's just around the corner.
So you got this new gig. When did you start the new gig?
Just recently, May 9th, I started.
Oh, wow.
my new job. So.
Wow, not even a month old yet.
I know. I'm still learning what it all means.
Yeah. Are you digging it so far?
Yeah, so far I'm loving it. Yeah.
And the new gig is what again?
My title is a drug information specialist. So I don't know why they keep giving me specialist on the end of my jobs. I need to earn them.
Well, it's got to end somehow, right? You can't just be drug information.
That's true. Then I might get taken for granted.
So you're WebMD.
Kind of.
She's live, MD.
Yeah, but a human. I'm like, click on this button to chat with a live expert on the side panel of your Medscape. Not quite.
No. I imagine you're more or less, hey, we got an issue with this. What are the side effects? I need to know quick.
Yeah, well, it can be quick or it can be drawn out, honestly.
Okay.
It can be, a pharmacist or physician has a patient with a really acute problem that's crazy. We've never seen this. What kind of literature is there to support giving some weird off-label therapy? Or it might be something like, there's a drug shortage and we don't know what alternatives are out there, what to do, what can we give alternatively. Is there something else we can give alternatively? That kind of thing.
If you ever have a drug shortage, I know a guy.
I might know a couple guys too.
Do I know these guys?
Like I said, I can research some off-label uses for whatever your friends got in the backseat of their car.
I was, that actually makes me think of something. Do you have to worry about illicit substances that people may be using at home?
Oh, yeah.
In addition to whatever medications they're taking as a prescription?
Not alcohol, though.
We do have to treat alcohol withdrawal symptoms frequently.
Yeah.
We have to treat opioid overdoses, heroin overdoses. Patients come into the hospital for all sorts of reasons. And quite frankly, anecdotally, I've seen an increase in this in the past couple of years, more overdoses coming into the ED. And it becomes a problem because then those patients are then admitted. And there are a lot of rules about, can we search someone's belongings if we suspect something? The short answer is no. So what do you do for these patients who you have a strong suspicion they might be actually using drugs in the hospital on our campus? So it's a problem.
And when you would be interested in searching in case there's a labeled bottle, and then you would know exactly how to treat that. That's what
right.
you mean,
If we knew what
not
they were
like
taking,
to hand it over to the cops immediately.
Sure. But yeah, if we knew that they were abusing an opioid, for example, we can give them a reversal agent called naloxone. If we know that they're abusing benzodiazepines like Valium or Ativan, something like that, we can give them flumazenil to reverse that. So we can target therapy a lot better if we know what they're doing. But quite frankly, it's usually not one thing.
Right.
And they don't want to tell you either.
No, they don't like to disclose.
And those two categories you mentioned can look very similar too in the way that the patient presents.
They can. There's kind of some hallmark symptoms, some toxidromes that your pal up at Poison Control could tell us about.
Toxidrome? What's that?
Well, like the telltale symptoms. So, for example, someone who was
You're turning blue, Violet.
Exactly. And someone who's has an opioid overdose might actually turn a little bit blue because they're cyanotic or they're not oxygenating because they've stopped breathing. But they typically will have like pinpoint pupils, for example. So there's some other things you can look for to kind of
or
try
super
to
blown out
differentiate.
pupils.
Right.
Okay.
So
I gotcha. So you're digging the new gig.
Gigging the new dig too.
Gigging the new dig. Yeah. And that's only a month old. So I was really excited to have you here in the studio because we are going to talk to you more about your prior life living in a polygamist family. How do you want to start that conversation?
Yeah, it's such a strange conversation to start, right? Let's just transition from that. First, maybe I can segue it like this. My parents didn't believe in medicine.
Oh, that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Good job. Nicely done.
Thanks.
Now, is that true among all the polygamist groups, or was that special to your, or some of the groups?
Quite honestly, it's hard to make that general statement about anything with polygamous groups.
Okay.
There's so much differentiation or disparity among the different groups.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned during your talk was you said, if you've met a polygamist, really all I can say is that you've met a polygamist. There's no, one representation of a person who's a polygamist that affects everybody who's a polygamist. They come in all different shapes and sizes and stripes and beliefs and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And even among themselves, there's discordance, they just believe, because everything's so esoteric and.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's like saying you met a Christian or somebody else.
Well, yeah,
right?
and then there are people just being people.
Yeah, there's a wide range of variation there.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's true. There's polygamists who, live in like creepy cults like you see in Colorado City. And then, there's people like, my own family, we kind of blended in pretty well. Some of that was learned behavior for survival. But honestly, like we didn't have to wear dresses every day. I didn't have to pull my hair back into those weird hairstyles or
with the high bangs.
Yeah, the high poofy bangs and, like the tennis shoes with nylons and like the ankle length skirts. So, there were definitely some weird rules. Like I wasn't allowed to wear shorts, but I could wear t-shirts and, so, all these arbitrary things that who knows? But I'm using that just to kind of explain that there's just so many different groups of polygamists.
Oh yeah. Well, and the title of your talk was Big Love, Big Lie. What was it? Big Love, Big Lie, Growing Up in Polygamy.
Right.
So and this is just my guess. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing you titled it that because your family was very much, not modeled after, but it was fashioned the same way as the families in the HBO series Big Love, where you just kind of blended in, like nobody in the community necessarily know or could point to any one thing that you dressed, any style of dress that you did,
right.
or anything like that.
We essentially just didn't want to call attention to ourselves,
right.
even though we were, of course, living illegally, first and foremost. It's against the law. So, we didn't want to draw attention to ourselves that way. But, so, all of the things that go with it.
Well, and you say you were living illegally, but basically it was
not
your
so much
parents,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Like you yourself were not necessarily a polygamist. You were in a polygamist family,
right.
but you've never had a polygamist relationship or anything like that.
No. So
how did that all start? I know that your father was a polygamist and married your mother when they were very young. In your talk, it seemed like you were hinting that your grandparents were also polygamists. Is that true?
Yeah, so this is a kind of a crazy thing. So I'll back up a little bit for context. So right. my father was raised, believing in polygamy. My mother was not. She was raised in the Mormon church, and they met when they were, 18 and 20 respectively. I didn't mix that up, but, and he kind of converted her and, you know how you get kind of these weird hand-me-down stories of lore from your families. The lore is that, my dad believed in polygamy, and he, of course, disclosed this to my mother and said, this is what I believe, and this is, how I think we should be living. But for me, I don't think I'm ever going to need to take another wife. I don't think that's in God's plan for me.
Oh, that's
so let's get married. Yeah. Yes. And that I think was communicated to my mother's parents. They would kind of lend some support to the union. But honestly, it's, my father's family is mysterious even to me, quite honestly. So all through my childhood growing up, it was just my grandma and my grandpa, my dad's parents. And, they, came to our same family church, polygamist church that we went to every Sunday. But I never knew until my grandpa died that he did have another wife and 2 other children with her. But apparently there was such contention, with my grandfather's first wife and second wife. They just could not get along, particularly, his first wife. He essentially put them in a different house and we never spoke of them.
Oh, so did you know his second wife as your grandmother or his first wife?
His first wife.
Oh, okay.
So I never even knew that his second wife and 2 children were alive until my grandfather died. Wow. I think I was 13 or 14 when my grandpa died, and it was like, what?
Did you meet them at all?
Yes, and then they joined our church. Started coming every Sunday.
Well, I bet Grandma loved that.
Well, Grandma at that point, she had stopped coming, and she was just all filled with all kinds of bitterness. And she really just, when my grandpa did die, she was just all kinds of bitter and angry with everyone, just in general, for no apparent reason, just kind of blaming everyone for my grandpa's death. Not just doctors, but everyone else. So
they didn't pray hard enough.
They didn't pray hard enough. And yeah, surely prostate cancer is completely preventable, but, but it is what it is. So she was kind of an interesting lady, I guess.
Sounds like a good place to plug Prestique.
What?
Since I was so much like that. a few weeks ago.
Is that really why you guys brought me on the show? You just needed some drug counseling with your
Yeah, something with low side effects.
hard to find in that class of medications.
Yeah.
So that's what you're on now is Prestige?
Yeah.
Ah.
Anyway, sorry,
Well, I
that
hope
wasn't
it's
my
working for
point.
you.
Not tonight.
Uh-oh.
Had a headache.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean it to be this kind of an interruption.
Oh, that's okay. My grandmother probably could have
Ah.
benefited from some pharmacologic intervention, but no. But she sadly she did get really kind of weird and reclusive after my grandpa died, and she kind of pulled away. But yeah, so grandpa's other family started showing up every Sunday, and then someone in the existing church group married one of those my grandpa's kids, and just the beautiful circle of life continued.
So do you know if your grandparents' parents were polygamists, or I'm just wondering how far back that stretches in your family tree, if you know?
I honestly don't. It's a little embarrassing since Mormons are so obsessed with genealogy that I don't know more about my own family. But I think I was an angry teenager and never really wanted to learn more.
Yeah.
And, I was never interested in polygamy myself and trying to distance myself. So, yeah, it's kind of sad. I do know that my, paternal grandparents emigrated to the U.S. After World War I, but before World War II. I can't remember the exact year. So they were born 20s. In Germany. Probably, yeah. I think it was probably the 20s to 30s. So they were born in Germany. My grandma had an accent for her entire life. So their parents, I don't know much of their history, but German converts to fundamentalist Mormonism, I guess.
Wow, that's interesting.
Maybe it was the thought of, I can have 2 wives. We're going to America.
Magical land.
So your mom and dad met just after your mother graduated high school, right?
She was actually still in high school when they first met, yeah.
And so they get married. It sounds like he led her to believe that, yes, my family is polygamist, but that's not really for me. Well, it
was more like, I believe it, and we're going to go to, you're coming into this church group now and you're part of this, but essentially I don't really think it's in God's plan for me to have more than one wife.
So he believed in quote unquote the principle, but he didn't think that it was necessarily his particular path in life.
His calling.
Right, exactly.
Or at least that's how he presented it to your mother initially.
Yeah.
So how did it go when he decided to take a second wife?
I mean, if God spoke to him.
I mean, you can't argue with God.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Right. So, end of discussion.
He had a flaming sword.
No, so what happened? Remember we were talking about how you might have to edit out like my really long,
Yeah.
Okay.
But now that we made mention of it, they just stay.
Now we don't have
we
to.
can keep them in. So I apologize for all of your listeners hearing really long, drawn out, awkward. So what happened is my mom and dad got married. Probably, I want to say 1970, 70 or 71. Started having babies. I'm number 6.
Oh, wow.
Of 10 from my mother. And it was.
From your mother.
From my.
Keyword.
My mother had 10 children. I'm number 6 of her 10 children. And it wasn't, until I was 10. So, well, I'll try to give you some other numbers to make it more contextual, but it was many years after my parents had been married that indeed God did speak to my father and inform him that it was time to take a second wife. So my dad was 40. My mom was 38. And of course it's, I have no choice. My dad had no choice in this. It was just God's will that he marry a 22-year-old.
And get a Corvette. Is this a midlife crisis thing?
Yeah. So she was 22. My oldest sister, oldest in the family, was 20.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
How close in age she was to the oldest sibling. 2 years older than my oldest sister. There could have been good friends.
Is your sister named Ivanka?
That's not German. No, just kidding. Well, luckily, my oldest sister had moved out when she was 18, so she wasn't there for the conversation because that would have been great fun.
Oh, man.
But I'm not kidding. In my little 10-year-old brain, I knew this woman who was going to come into our family. And like, I was friends with her little sisters and like, you know, because we're all just part of the same wacky group. So like, I knew her and I was like, oh, she's going to be my mom. Oh my God, it's going to be fun. We can braid each other's hair. Like,
she's closer in age to you, so you can relate a little bit.
And really, like, my oldest sister being like kind of that same age difference, it was like, I'm getting a new big sister.
Oh, wow.
And I get
So she was part of the polygamist group that your family belonged to? Okay.
Yep. Part of that little pool. So, yeah. And I mean, and I was 10, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't 10, I don't know all the conversations my mother and father had.
Oh, yeah.
But to be perfectly honest, like my mom, she's the most meek, demure, quiet, obedient woman. And, I don't know
how. She's a good Mormon woman.
She's a good Mormon woman. And I don't know how she started out, but she certainly by that point was whatever he says goes. And so, yeah, I don't know if she
He's
had
the
any.
patriarch and head of the family. And yeah, that's just how it goes.
That's how it goes. This is God's will.
He's got the priesthood and talks to God directly. So what is she going to do?
Yeah. He's her ticket to heaven because.
Oh, right. Because she can't get into the celestial kingdom without him.
She can't get into the celestial kingdom without the priesthood. Are you kidding?
Maybe that's what Grandma was worried about.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the things that really drove me away from Mormonism. I mean, I always thought it was bullshit anyway. I never really believed any of the tenets. But it was one of the things that really made me take a step back and say, well, why do all of these women in the church just go along with this? That they can't get into heaven. They're always going to be subservient. They're always going to be lesser than their husbands. They can't do the same thing that men do. And the church says, well, their roles are, different, but they're still equal in God's eyes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's bullshit because if they were equal in God's eyes, then they should be able to attain the same level of heaven as their husbands, regardless of anything else. But that's not the case. And that always really bothered me.
I'm glad to hear you say it because it's never made sense to me either. And growing up in a polygamist home, it never made sense to me that I couldn't do all the things my brothers got to do. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but I'm at least as smart as them.
Yeah.
Or smarter.
Are any of your brothers doctors?
Actually, yes.
Oh, wow. Well, so how many out of 10? What's the percentage we're going with here?
Oh, for with just doctors? Well, there still remains to be seen what the young ones will do, but there's one other doctor. He's a PhD, not medical physician, a PhD electrical engineer. And my other brother is a physician's assistant. So, he just took a shortcut.
And let's all remember, Ben Carson is a doctor and a brain surgeon.
That's true. It really isn't a good indicator of.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You can be specialized in one particular area, be really good at that one thing.
Yeah, I think that's called savantism.
Yeah.
Part of the spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, then just be a total dipshit about everything else in life.
Yeah.
Not that you are.
I will remove these headphones and be on my way.
I just realized I'm I kind of painted myself into a corner with that.
But you've never left sponges in any of your pill bottles.
Or a junior mint. Sorry. Weird Seinfeld reference for the but yeah, so I wanted to tell you one other thing to gross you out though. So yes, wife number 2 came into the family and of course started having babies as well. My mother's youngest and wife number 2's oldest children were born 2 days apart.
Oh wow.
Huh.
So my dad went from one hospital to another. Because they weren't born in the same one.
Oh wow! What? They weren't born in the same hospital?
No, I don't think they were, and I can't remember the reasons why, or
probably
I don't know. I think
records.
It could have been for records. It could have been wife number 2 had a full-time job that she may have had some health benefits with, or something like that.
Well, and I was just thinking, hospital staff may have had some questions if your father's going from
one room to the other.
Yeah.
And then he fills out 2 birth certificates for 2 different women in the same hospital.
Weren't
you just...
Oh gosh, wrong room. Oh, sorry, mix these up.
I can see why there would have been 2 different hospitals.
Yeah, it really kind of makes a lot more sense just beyond the insurance issue. So. But yeah.
So he decides to take wife number 2. She moves into the house. They. Do you remember wedding ceremony at all?
The quote unquote weddings, they're just, I didn't actually go. I can't remember if there are like rules about how, I don't know. But essentially it's just a simple ceremony in like the same basement where we had Sunday school church every Sunday. And yeah, I've never seen one. Don't really care to, but essentially it's just, the same kind of weird, hand gesture things and the secret, the secret language, not really language, but verbiage. Mm-hmm. And they are then sealed together in God's eyes. So.
Sealed for time and eternity.
Time and eternity.
And why do you got to hide in the basement to do it?
Right? I don't know. We did everything. I made the joke in my talk that, we literally lived our religion underground. Because like, seriously, it's always my uncle's basement where all these things happened.
So what kind of, or how large was the congregation that would gather for services?
It kind of waxed and waned over the years. Somewhere around 50 to 70.
All in one basement?
Mm-hmm.
It was a big house?
It was big. Yeah, big house.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots of space in South Jordan, and then Sandy kind of moved around a couple times in my childhood. And then, different families would like join, and then like there'd be some weird disagreement over some like weird like footnote of a text that no one like is legitimate. And so like there'd be arguments, and certain families would join a different polygamist group, and then another one would come in, and so it's weird.
I'm Bryce Barkenagel. Have you ever wondered if Joseph Smith was drugging the early Mormons? Turns out it might be possible when you have a fantastic congregation that is witnessing angels floating around in the rafters and think that the temple is on fire and they're running out in the snow and writhing around on the ground naked. Yeah, as it turns out, drugs might be the best explanation. Be sure to check out my Sunstone Symposium presentation on the Joseph Smith entheogen theory by punching that into any YouTube browser. And thank you so much for checking that out, and be sure to check out the Naked Mormonism podcast. This is the Godless Revolution.
Hello, ma'am. My goodness, you have such an attractive little garden here.
Oh, thank you, young man. I just planted those flowers last week. My, how they grow.
Yes, ma'am. We're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, the Mormons.
That's right. I'm Elder Young, and this is Elder White.
Well, you two boys can just fuck right off.
Ma'am?
You heard me. Take that Book of Mormon and shove it so far up your righteous asses that you choke. You soul-soliciting pig fuckers. Here.
Gosh.
You and the Godless Revolution will be reassimilated in 3, 2, 1.
So you'd have people, would they come in from other polygamous sects and move in and out of the different, I know there are, I think probably 2 or 3 in the Salt Lake Valley, that I know of. I'm guessing there's probably more than that, but.
I've been thinking I should start like one of those like tours, like, where you have like the bus with no roof and you take people around and just be like
the celebrity tour bus.
Yeah, the celebrity tour. I can do the polygamy tour of Salt Lake.
That little house is actually 20,000 square feet and holds one family and 12 wives.
This is my uncle's basement.
Exactly. But no, it is true. So you think about like, you kind of know some of those names, like, the All Reds and
that was the first one that came in my mind.
So you
All
kind of
Reds
hear
and the Barlows
and there's some, I don't want to name drop.
The Chenoweths.
The Jeffs. And so, I mean, so I mean, there's all these different groups and even like, lesser known ones that are like local that, we all kind of know each other, but it's like, well, they kind of have this weird thing about them. And so we're not going to affiliate ourselves with them. We like our group. And so it's strange.
Well, it's like any other Christian religious sect, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's hundreds of different variations of Christianity. Yeah. So this one included.
Thousands, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that's really weird. So, did your dad hold any type of office or calling in your particular church?
They didn't really have formal callings, if you will, like that.
There wasn't like priests and there were priests, but were there like apostles and a president or anything like that?
I don't, honestly,
Prophet, seer, and revelator.
No, we kind of had like, excuse me, my great uncle was kind of like leader of our group. And then there were, several of the men that were heads of households, that kind of, they didn't have a formal title, but it was understood that, they're kind of leaders in their own right. In like our church on Sunday, like my dad's job was, he was always like the MC. Cause believe it.
Hip DJ
dad. No, no, I think he was a good speaker and he was quite charismatic. And so he could carry the dialogue along and he could introduce, like today this person's giving a talk on this and like then transition to, hymn time and all that kind of thing. So he was like the MC, for as long as I can remember.
Now, I know most people, when they think of the polygamist groups, they think of the Warren Jeffs, where himself was the head guy for the church. They didn't follow the prophets in Salt Lake City or anything, but he was the prophet.
Mm-hmm.
Do a lot of the smaller FLDS groups, do they follow that same thing where your head of your group is your prophet and you don't follow the actual mainstream LDS religion?
That's a great question. I think that it was kind of understood or approached that way, but I can't remember that we ever referred to him as a prophet.
Okay.
I don't believe we ever did. I think ultimately they recognize that, he's like the head of our family group. I think I did hear him call her a patriarch.
Mm-hmm.
But then they would always ultimately refer to Joseph Smith as the prophet and seer.
Okay, so they still viewed him as
he's
the one true prophet and seer
the
of
one
the
mighty
church
and strong.
But how do they view the Salt Lake, formal LDS church? They view it as the mainstream LDS church, where they view it as just, we don't believe what they're saying or believe their prophets are full of crap because they broke the covenants or...
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think, again, different polygamous groups have a different perspective on it. But I think for our group and my father, they felt, I think most groups would agree that they felt a certain level of betrayal from the mainstream religion. They chose
to abandon the principle.
They abandoned.
They were cowardly.
This holy sacred covenant.
They caved in. They're going against God's commandments.
Exactly. Just selling out to be a state.
They're no longer punk rock.
But I think they're
Blink-182.
more like Green Day. So yeah, I think there's inherently that. And so there was some like hurt feelings, some betrayal and just a feeling of they couldn't do this. They couldn't live up to the full weight of the law. And, I think, I remember my father saying that they only practice about 80% of God's law. So that's kind of how it is seen, so.
They're not living true and completely faithful lives. They've compromised themselves in order to be more accepted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in this particular line, but it may not be answerable. But I asked Roy Jeff some of the same questions, but I'm curious about like the psychology behind guys like your dad or Warren. There's a couple of red flags that you've said already that make that about the charisma, for one thing, but also it's the long con for your dad, right? Like the way that he was so early on to plant that seed of polygamy right at the front, like to bring it up to say, I'm not into that, but I believe, just kind of the fact that he's putting on a decades long manipulation, because I don't buy for a second that he wasn't planning on doing that ever. That's why he said it.
Right.
Nobody needs to say that. When, I didn't tell Danielle that I'm not a polygamist before we got married.
Yeah.
You don't
need to say that.
I didn't do it.
Right. And so when you start with that and then you kind of ease the objections by saying, not for me, but I do believe in the principle, but we're not going to do that.
But yeah, I would never do that.
Yeah. This is decades long manipulation, long con.
Yeah. Right. And, it's a weird thing. I have thought a lot about this. Because, my dad had a lot of other tactics, that were none too subtle. Especially in retrospect. I mean, you don't even realize it at the time, but once, you're out and you can reflect back on it and think about it, and take a higher level view, he had a lot of tactics. So first and foremost, in his power and his control, was money. So he controlled all the money. So my mother stayed at home. He carefully monitored like all of the credit card statements. Like I remember my mother actually hiding like receipts and purchases. And it's like, Mom, why don't you want Dad to know that you like bought my brother a pair of pants? Like what is that? But it was the control factor. And he really kept a really tight rein on my mother and all of us children. So, for example, too, he, it's a lot easier when kids are little, but then as we were like growing up, being teenagers, he wouldn't allow us to, we took driver's ed because it was part of like high school.
Yeah.
But we could not have a car. So I relied on, friends to drive me around and that kind of thing. Was not allowed to have a job because again, then I could earn some of my own money and have my own kind of independence. Yeah. He did not want any kind of independence to be facilitated. So yeah, I think he had a lot of those little tricks, and definitely used them to the full extent that he could to kind of keep us under very tight control.
So what was it like growing up in the house? You've hinted at some of the control issues your dad had and everything. I think you mentioned during your talk that you guys didn't really celebrate many holidays.
Mm-hmm. Well, we found ways of like celebrating, like holy cow, birthdays were a huge deal because
like Jehovah's Witnesses.
No, like our own. Oh. It was like there's so many of us.
That's what I'm like. There has to be at least one a month,
right? Yeah, and it actually is about. There's a couple in May, a couple in November, but yeah, they're pretty. They're all over. So, but like for us kids, like our birthday was a big deal because it's like. Everyone's going to pay attention to me for a second.
Well, it's got to be hard because that's, all that time and attention that you're spreading over instead of 1 or 2 or 3 kids. It's, what was it? 17 kids 17 total, I believe?
Yeah, 17 total.
Yeah, you have 15 middle children.
Yep.
Wow. So what would you do for birthdays?
Oh, I mean, it wasn't even anything huge. Well, I should maybe go back to the holiday thing. Don't let me forget. But, along with birthdays, it wasn't like we actually got to have birthday parties with friends or anything. It was really just like, dinner time, like dinner. My mom would cook, within reason, something we wanted for dinner. And then we always got a cake and my mom would hang like streamers for us and like, there's some decoration. And then, with the cake, everyone would sing, happy birthday to you. And it was like your special little moment. So yeah, it wasn't extravagant by any means, but it was like your moment.
Oh yeah. Well, and when you would get those moments, so few and far between,
right?
That had to have been really special.
Right. Because with that many kids, like my mom was just always out, like buying groceries. Like honestly, I think she was probably out for her own sanity too. But because grocery shopping took a long time.
I need a break. Take me away.
Seriously.
Mom went shopping last week.
And then my father was at work all day. And then when he got home, it was we were really just trying to stay out of the way and keep our heads down because any attention from him was inevitably negative.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was just, yeah, that's kind of how it was. But yeah, back to your holiday thing. Yeah. Most popular holidays are, steeped in pagan traditions. So, Easter, it was like, we never celebrated, even though it's like supposed to be about Jesus. And we would, in church, like around the same time as Easter was really happening, we would usually have like a special meeting or sacrament meeting or something like that to remind us about the magic of Jesus and his resurrection. But, in terms of like dying,
all that crap,
the Easter egg thing and the candy and the Easter baskets, we didn't do any of that. Christmas sucked the worst because like everyone at school, like, Christmas.
I got so many gifts.
Yeah.
Santa's coming.
Santa. What are you talking about?
I think that's so interesting because I every time with this war on Christmas, keep the Christ in Christmas bullshit.
Our family wasn't recognizing it at all.
Well, but in my mind, I think, well, then do it like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Then you Christians, if you're complaining about it, get rid of all the pagan stuff then.
Yeah.
You can keep the virgin birth, and we'll have all the presents and the decorating and the tree and the stockings and all the fun stuff that you love about Christmas.
Right.
They should be doing it like that.
And I should actually, full disclosure, we still did get some presents because my mom, I think, just couldn't quite let go of treasured memories. So,
I would imagine it's only like 1 or maybe 2 gifts per kid, 'cause that's a lot of kids.
Well, my mom, I think she, along with the grocery shopping all the time, she was like Christmas shopping all year round.
Okay.
She was,
Smart.
she was a wizard, or I don't want to call my mom a witch, but the female equivalent.
She was resourceful.
She was really resourceful because, she, stretching money like enough to take care of so many kids on a resourceress. I like that.
Nice.
I like that. But I mean, she could stretch a buck. Like she could coupon like nobody's business.
Well, what did your father do for a living?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, how did he afford 2 wives, 17 kids, and a house? And
I don't know. I know what my dad did. I don't know how he afforded it. But they were definitely penny pinchers and really fiscally responsible, I guess. But no, my dad actually just worked for a payphone company.
Oh.
And
that's a booming business these days.
I know. Yeah. It the last decade he like kind of transitioned to doing some other things because he was, getting close to retirement, but at the same time like payphones
We're getting close to retirement too.
Yeah. Yes. They're also being retired.
Yes. So I mean, I think by the time he was just about to retire, they'd kind of like cut down staff to just like him and like 1 or 2 other people. Wow. And they still had like some actual real payphones out in the world that they were maintaining. But, prior to cell phones coming along and that was what he did. He like collected coins from payphones all over the region and, repaired and fixed payphones. It's kind of a weird random
Yeah, I guess
thing.
Somebody would have had to do that.
Somebody had to do it.
I never really thought about it, but yeah.
Somebody had to do it and it allowed him to keep a low profile and
Did they have someone on staff that would go by periodically and hang them back up?
They had special tongs so that you actually had to touch it.
Right.
Put it back on there.
Yeah, some of those were pretty gross.
It's a terribly disgusting idea, right? Like
anyone who could have done anything with that phone.
It's very true.
Sure.
So when you delivered your talk, I think everybody kind of danced around it. Would you refer to your family's religion as a cult now, or how do you view it looking back?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to, I don't know. I guess I haven't looked up in a dictionary the definition of a cult, but I think they definitely share some common characteristics. I mean, just trying to keep such tight control over people, trying to make sure that they're not using their brains, that they're just totally engrossed and immersed in this, culture and constantly reinforcing the ideas that this is the truth, this is real. If you don't believe it, you're going straight to hell. And using kind of some fear tactics and those power and control tactics. So there's definitely some commonality.
What about, and the isolation too, right?
Right. The isolationism, like trying very intentionally not to allow us to have friends. Friends don't come over to our house.
Not having a job.
Not having freedom.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about next was like, you're going to high school and stuff and you're trying to, assimilate, not assimilate, but be normal.
Blend in.
So you're going to, I'm guessing, a normal public high school.
Yeah.
Did people there know about your polygamous family? Like, was it rumored or were you just like disassociated with the other students?
Well, no, I definitely had friends that I had really close friends that were, friends from elementary school all the way up to graduation. And they, of course, knew. I think I kidded myself a lot that I was a really sneaky girl and good at.
I'm so clever. They'll never figure it out.
They'll never know. I covered all of my tracks.
Mom, Tooth picked me up today. Hi, Mom.
It's my mom.
I told everyone she was my aunt and she was going through hard times, had to move in with us, and then just like try to ignore the fact that there kept being more children.
Well, I just thought of this. How big was your house? Like, how many did you have? Like, kids just stacked in rooms?
Yeah,
Like,
a little
like
bit.
cordwood?
No, it wasn't. No, we actually had a pretty big house. It's 7 bedrooms, just 2 levels. But my dad actually built it. Like, so he and his brothers purchased some land, and just like we were down. Like, I mean, this was South Jordan way back in the day, so like it was like horse pastures and stuff. So, so like we had like a whole acre, and then like my brother's homes, they just kind of built their own little cul-de-sac there, and so it was pretty decent size. But yes, everyone had to share rooms at some point.
I was picturing like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like one bed for
Right.
you and Grandpa.
Now you said 7 bedrooms. How many baths?
4.
Okay. It's better than 1.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. One
It was
would've been
really-
impossible.
Well, even 4 with
Yeah.
that many people in a household is...
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of strange. Like, I think I'm the only one who never had to share a room.
Oh, wow.
Cause, how it works
Lucky
is,
you.
I know, I'm so spoiled. So, well, it just has to do with the birth order. So I have an older sister, and then 4 brothers, and they weren't going to make me share.
Yeah.
My brothers had to share rooms. So they weren't going to make me share with my brothers. So I had my own room, and then another boy came along. And so I was just like, still living the dream. My own room. And then we started getting a run of girls, after that. But then there's 5 years between me and my next sister. And then another girl came along. So those 2 girls ended up sharing a room, and I got off scot-free.
Oh, wow. Yeah, lucky you, man.
The only person in the house with privacy.
Seriously. Kinda.
And your dad did all this by servicing payphones?
Yeah. It's weird, right?
Was he also in pharmaceuticals?
I don't know.
That would be a good cover to drive around.
Good cover.
Yeah.
Drive around in like a work truck, and
You
like
got a perfect
you got some cool
drop-off
drop
position,
sites.
yeah.
I don't know what else was going on, but
Supplement the income.
well, and honestly, when wife number 2 came along, she worked full time, and she had a job and was able to bring more income into the family. So I'm sure that helped a ton. With,
Yeah, sure.
What did she do for a living?
She was a server in a restaurant and worked her way up to being like the manager of the restaurant. So.
Well, that's good. And you said that
I thought you were going to say she fixed VCRs or something.
The old, what are they called? The betas or something?
Oh yeah,
Betamax.
The Betamax.
Those never made it to Massachusetts. When I moved out here, I've had people always talk about those. I'm like, I don't know what the hell
My parents had one.
Yeah.
My grandpa would take all the VHS tapes and transfer them over to Betamax tapes so we could watch the movies.
Nice.
They're higher quality.
And then to Laserdisc.
No, you couldn't burn those. But we didn't have that. I think my grandfather had one. We had one at our high school.
My stepdad had one of the old Laserdisc players with the big fucking like 7-inch
bigger
disc.
than a record.
Big records, yeah.
This is Mithrin, author of the ABCs of Science and Mormonism, as well as I Should Start a Cult, and you're listening to The Godless Revolution.
I remember making an absolute, well, I won't say fool of myself. I was expelled from a meeting of Latter-day Saints when I first went to Salt Lake City. I just literally, as a tourist, I was wandering around, and this person in a grey shift came up to me and said, "Would you like to see around?" And I said, "Well, that's very kind." And then she started gathering others, and I realized she was a Mormon who was doing a tour, and presumably there was a little bit of recruitment going along, because they're a very proselytizing sect, as you know, the Mormons. Anyway, but she gave us a good tour, and we saw this tabernacle here and this here and so on. And then at one point she said, "I just want to tell you a little about the Church of Latter-day Saints." And we all politely stood. And then she said how in the afterlife, all families will be reunited, and you'll be with your families forever. So I put my hand up and said, "Well, what happens if you've been good?" She said, "Could you leave, please?" Because everyone started laughing. But I mean, what a ridiculous idea. How is that supposed to be attractive? That you're going to be stuck with every aunt and every cousin and every, oh, good gracious, every, alcoholic or slightly deviant uncle. I mean, Jesus, it's just the most awful destiny imaginable. And they think that's a USP. That's what our church promises. Good Lord.
Rejoining the Godless Revolution podcast now.
Well, you said that your church took place in the basement of your uncle's house. How many siblings did your father have?
My father had, let me see. There was some falling out with them too. So, He had...
Well, falling out as they, like, went to other sects or just left or...
One of them rejected the lifestyle and left, got out of there. No, two of them did. Cause one of them, stayed locally. And so like, I grew up kind of knowing him and those cousins. Another one moved completely out of the state. Another brother, the uncle we had church in every Sunday, obviously stayed. And then he had, this is so embarrassing, 2 or 3 sisters, but they left as well. So not a high retention.
It's really rough when the ladies leave.
I know.
Like you want to kick all the guys out, but you want to keep the women in the church? Come on.
Seriously.
It's a failure on your grandfather's part, I think. So your father, I remember during the talk that you said that, your father had moved into his second wife's room, basically moved out of the shared bedroom with your mother and into the second wife's bedroom. And your mother, as an act of rebellion, painted her own bedroom pink.
I think it was more like consolation than rebellion. I think it was more like, well, might as well.
So I know in the show Big Love, it's like they would, they had a calendar where they would mark off, okay, well, the husband's going to be with wife number 1 on these days and wife number 2 on these days. It sounds like there had to have been some back and forth for
Dan,
your siblings to be
think
born
about
a couple.
this.
Well, it struck me when I was listening to the talk again today. It was one of the things that I picked out today that I hadn't noticed before, that you said that he moved into her bedroom. And I guess I'd always just figured that there would be, there would just be timeshare husband. I don't know.
Yeah. No, when wife number 2 first joined the family, there was a timeshare thing going on. Like I said, try not to make me think about this too much, but there was certainly a timeshare going on. And obviously both of them were pregnant at the same time and having babies, 2 days apart.
So obviously the timeshare worked.
The timeshare was working. But essentially at that point, my mom was 40. So she probably was getting close to not being able to have more children. So yet another reason for my dad to lose interest, I guess. I don't know.
Well, and that's really the only reason why you would ever want to be with your wife.
Putting her out to pasture.
Right? I mean, she's just using me to get into heaven anyway. Sorry.
That's a good one.
Who's the victim here? No, but, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they didn't have a high quality relationship anyway. And then without,
it's not like they were
much
laying
motivation.
In bed talking to each other about how their day went.
Oh, sure.
And stuff, right?
Yeah. I'm sure they did that.
Well, it's hard to feel secure when you got all that sweet payphone cash.
Or coin.
Literally coin. Yeah. So many quarters. But yeah, so it's true though. So I don't remember at what point, but my mother did not have any more children, after that. And then essentially, my dad kind of stopped going to that bedroom and was going to the one down the hall every night to sleep there every night. So yeah, my mom painted her room from blue to pink.
There wasn't like I'm taking all of my clothing, like I'm moving my sock drawer over to this other bedroom. It was just he started sleeping in the other bedroom.
Yeah. I think I did phrase it as he moved in, but there wasn't really anything to move in. It's just that was where he went to sleep every night. And never in my mom's room anymore. So
that would be so weird. And so I can't imagine how your mother would have reacted to that, just because there's no frame of reference for me to relate to that.
Yeah. How do you not feel, insulted and just completely devastated by something like that? It's yeah.
Oh, well, we haven't talked about it, but how did your mothers get along? Were they simpatico? Did they like each other? Talk?
I think they made great efforts.
Were they good sister wives?
No, I want to be totally objective, but quite frankly, wife number 2 is a bitch. I mean, she's just like a snotty brat, because literally she's a kid. Yeah. And she had no education. She was homeschooled and she just was an idiot and just completely selfish. And she didn't understand. So she's walking in and, not all of it's her fault, I guess, but she's walking into a home that's already well established and she has no idea what the heck. So, she just had no consideration, no appreciation for the things my mother did. And my mom, of course, like everyone tries to make a good show. And, you know, it's obviously among the entire community. Everyone is supposed to get along. Everyone is supposed to love each other and be happy sister wives. So, I mean, they could never voice any real anger or frustration, certainly not to us kids. So I can only imagine what my mother internalized.
They're not going to voice any real malcontent with people that, you know, I'm sure they would like to continue carrying on the principle. They're not going to say, this is the shittiest life in the world. You should never do this, right?
Right. Right. And I mean, it just goes against their whole like purpose for their religion. So I mean, I think my mom put on a brave face and she certainly would make a passive aggressive comment here and now again, but, and they'd get into little, you know, disputes that they would try to keep quiet. But then like ultimately it was like kids going to their dad being like, settle this kind of thing. But I don't know.
I think this definitely goes some way to count as evidence for what Dr. Garcia was saying about the biggest predictor for violence being gender. Could you imagine if the genders were reversed in that situation?
Oh yeah.
That would end in a murder for sure.
Physical brawls all the time, at least.
Constantly. Yeah. And then murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your mom like made some passive aggressive comments once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she didn't
crazy.
get out a butter knife.
Yeah. But if she had, I mean, you know, I would.
She has more self-restraint than me. Not that I would go to violence. Of course not.
Hopefully your husband's listening to this.
He knows his place.
Well, we talked about.
So do you take after your dad then?
I picked up a few tricks.
So we talked about holidays. One of the things you mentioned during your talk also was that you never, ever got to go trick-or-treating.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
That broke my heart.
It
That's
breaks
the
my
biggest
heart.
pagan holiday.
I know. No, do you know what's so funny? They turned it into this weird, they would call it All Hallows Eve. Cause again, it's just steeped in paganism, but it was supposed to be like a celebration of the earth. And it's so funny because, every year we would have like a party right around Halloween, and I have no idea how the hell these kinds of things get started, but every year we would have a piñata shaped and decorated like the earth.
Oh, so you killed the earth.
Shit out of the earth.
I have no idea. But since moving out, 15 years later, me and my brothers will sometimes get together and have a Halloween party that involves making a very phallic piñata.
What do you use to hit it with?
Usually just a baseball bat.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you made it another instrument to.
We could probably get a little bit more crass with it, but these are also my brothers, so again, it's boundaries.
Okay.
It's one thing to.
So did you have trick-or-treaters in the neighborhood ever come by, or?
Well, not really, because we had like our own private little cul-de-sac with my, cousins, homes around us, and as the years went on, we did start getting more development, so the horse pastures turned into, neighborhoods, but we were still down this little, like, kind of rural cut-off dirt road. So we really never got many, people venturing in.
Well, that's good for the kids, for the other kids in the neighborhood who I remember growing up across the street from, Jehovah's Witness family. And they
had to just see all the kids and all their.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then, as a young child, I didn't know what a Jehovah's Witness was. And I didn't know that they didn't celebrate holidays. They didn't do Halloween, that whole deal. And
you just thought they were poor.
Well, the people who lived across the street from us must have been higher up in the church hierarchy, because they always had the church bus parked outside their house also. And yeah, they were very strict about it. They were some of the earliest voices in my young childhood who told me that there was no such thing as Santa. Well, Mom said we're not supposed to say this because you guys don't believe the same thing as us, but there's no Santa. And then they,
Tooth Fairy?
Yeah, and they didn't do Halloween. They turn off their lights, and you knocked on the door. They're like, "No, we don't do Halloween. Go away." Well, okay, bye. But yeah. So I was just wondering if your parents were turning away other kids if they came to the house. But yeah, it makes sense that you wouldn't have any if you were at the end of your own little cul-de-sac there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But every Halloween I get a little bit sad because I'm like, I never got to do this. But now I'm living vicariously through my little boy and having a good time.
There you go.
Putting him in cute little costumes.
So tell us a little bit about your current family.
Oh, sure. So married to a wonderful man. We've been married for almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years this summer. Together 11 years this summer. And we have a little 2.5-year-old boy named Jonas, and he's beautiful. I love him to death. He's the cutest ever. Yeah. He's at a really fun age right now too, where he's just like.
You say 2.5?
2.5. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a fun age.
Yeah, he does not stop moving, and he just chatters and repeats everything I say, which is so dangerous, but it's just adorable though. Like, yeah, loves dinosaurs and trucks and all these boy things that I did not teach him to like.
Making noise and messes.
Yeah.
And,
oh my gosh, yeah.
That's what I was going to say. My brother's son has a dinosaur or dragon costume that he just likes to wear sometimes.
That's awesome.
And it's full on with the tail and the dragon head on it, and he just wears it.
He hasn't wanted to do that yet, but I think that happens a lot with kids. My husband actually, he's told me, and I think I have a picture of it somewhere. His thing was he had a Halloween costume that was Dracula, and he liked to just wear the Dracula cape around. So I guess I need to think very carefully about what Halloween costume I pick this year.
Because he might like to wear it at random times during the year.
And you also have a pet?
We have a dog. Mm-hmm, yep.
Named?
Her name is Tesla.
Yay! That's
cool.
I just wanted you to say that you have a dog named Tesla.
We have a dog named Tesla.
But I think you should get your son a Deadpool costume. That'd just be...
Ooh. That could be kind of cool. I don't know. I think it would not interest him. He would just be like, what is this? This is not...
But everyone else would get it.
Would think it was rad. Very true.
So you said during your talk that your father used you and your siblings as projections of his faith, basically. He used you as projections of his faith, basically.
That's correct.
Dude, you know what? We totally need next April. We need to have a guest, and we can all just interview just like that. So, welcome to the show.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. So he used you all as little projections of his faith. Did you? I know you didn't have a very close relationship with your father, and I don't think we mentioned yet that your father has since passed away.
Mm-hmm.
He died last year, I believe you said.
Yeah, just over a year ago.
Did you? Well, maybe we can get to this in a little bit, but you said that he used you all as a projection of his faith, and I'm guessing that's it's just another one of those control issues where he wants to present that the way he's living is true and correct and right, and all of his children are perfect manifestations of how wonderful his particular belief set is. That had to have been really hard trying to live up to.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately he was just kind of a dick and he was really vain. But I mean, no,
kind of a dick. You feel
trying to be too judgmental. He did. I mean, I think the logic that got kind of twisted around in his head was, if we're obeying God's laws, we'll be blessed. Like that's pretty clear in, their version of literature. And so if we're blessed and we're living right, then we should be beautiful and happy and
shiny happy people.
Shiny happy people. REM, right? But yeah, so I wasn't allowed to listen to devil music either, by the way. But
REM was devil music?
Still is.
They were losing their religion.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, he kind of twisted it around to, again, and it goes back to control too, because it was emotionally crippling. Like he would just be mean, essentially, So he used to, my little brother, before his growth spurt, he was like just a chubby little kid, and 10-year-old boys are chubby, right? But he would make him do sit-ups in front of the family. Like every single night we gathered for family prayer before bed. He would make my little brother do sit-ups in front of the whole family.
Little healthy body shaming.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much body shaming. Yeah. And it wasn't like, so for my little brother, it was being fat. For me, it was being chubby. For one of my little sisters who was super skinny, it was, you're too pale. Take iron supplements.
Wait, she was just more white and delightsome than the rest of you.
I know, right? Super ironic. But yeah, he was.
Oh, double entendre. Iron supplement, ironic. Yes.
I meant to do that. No. But yeah, so it was, there's just even not even really rhyme or reason. And he was equally that way to my mom too. He once called my mom within earshot, because I remember hearing it as a child, called her the Michelin Man.
Man.
Yeah, so it was just back to the control. So there's like body shaming and just, the emotional.
Yeah, fuck you, tiny dick.
Emotional.
so was.
I can't imagine any scenario in which my mother would say even words that rhyme with those things.
This is New Name Noah, and you're listening to the Godless Revolution.
Oh, hey, Stan. Where's your best buddy, Gary?
I'm not hanging around that kid anymore.
Oh, no, you guys broke up?
You guys were right, okay? The new kid's a douche. Now I just gotta find a way to keep him away from me.
Hey, Stan.
Oh, brother. Uh-oh, the jilted lover returns.
Listen, I just wanted to let you know you don't have to worry about me trying to be your friend anymore.
I don't?
Look, maybe us Mormons do believe in crazy stories that make absolutely no sense. And maybe Joseph Smith did make it all up. But I have a great life and a great family. And I have the Book of Mormon to thank for that. The truth is, I don't care if Joseph Smith made it all up. Because what the church teaches now is loving your family, being nice, and helping people. And even though people in this town might think that's stupid, I still choose to believe in it. All I ever did was try to be your friend, Stan. But you're so high and mighty you couldn't look past my religion and just be my friend back. You got a lot of growing up to do, buddy. Suck my balls.
Thank you to everybody who has rated the show on iTunes and Stitcher and are following us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And to all our Patreon patrons, you make the show possible.
Oh, I'm sorry, what were you
I was just going to say, did anybody in the family live up to his expectations? Did he have like a favorite, or was everyone just, no one could live up to his expectation?
I mean, ultimately, no one did. None of us did. One by one, all of my siblings moved out. My father certainly had favorites, i.e. boys. And his oldest boy was definitely his golden child. It's interesting. So when my oldest brother, decided to move out, join the Mormon church, serve a mission, that was when my father actually got a little bit more soft on the Mormons are so wicked and they betrayed us. And it became more like, well, at least they live 80%.
Oh, because the golden child.
Because the golden child chose to go that way. So maybe it's not quite so, purgatory worthy. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there was some favoritism that way, but ultimately, no, none of us could ever please him.
Sounds like a personality disorder, almost like, narcissistic or sociopathic almost.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean,
it's very Trump-like. Some of that,
Oh God, so many reasons for me to dislike him. Yeah,
which one? Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. It's, I guess he's an interesting case study, but, I don't have the background in psychology to say one way or the other, but certainly a flawed human being for sure.
Sounds a lot like my mom. It was also, that's why I made the connection first when you started saying some of that stuff. I was like, yeah. Anyway.
You're an atheist now, and it sounded like during your talk that you came to a realization or the possible conclusion that there wasn't a God at a pretty early age. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I honestly was pretty young. When you're a little kid, you obviously try to make your parents happy. You believe the things they tell you, and, you just try to get some positive attention and, that kind of thing. But yeah, it just got more and more frustrating, like wanting to have friends, wanting to be normal, and constantly being told that that's not correct. All of these people you think are your friends that are nice to you are wicked, horrible people and are going to drag you straight down to hell with them. I just kind of got to the point where it's like, this can't be, someone's lying to me. Which one is it? And,
well, and that's where your dad really fucked up, right?
Right. He let me go to public school.
Outside influence.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, oh man, if I ever start a cult, let me tell you.
No outside contact at all.
Right?
This is the bunker cult.
Funny, I have to just divert for 1 second and say that I really love that show, Kimmy Schmidt. Have you ever watched that? She's one of the bunker women. That show's hilarious. And I have to admit also, I could not actually watch Big Love. I tried to watch one episode and I was like, nope, already lived it. But
Been
somehow
there, done
Kimmy Schmidt's
that.
hilarious.
Got the emotional scars.
Yeah, already get that. Anyway, sorry for that. And now I kind of forgot.
Oh, we are a show of tangents, so don't worry about that.
Oh, we were talking about at an early age.
So yeah, it's funny that this sticks out in my memory because it really was this really clear moment, and it wasn't nothing was going on around me. I had just been arguing with my dad upstairs, and my bedroom was in the basement, and I went downstairs to go to my bedroom and turn on my light. And I was just kind of like thinking about how all of this is bullshit and doesn't make any sense. And I just had this like kind of like moment where I was like, wait, what if there's no God? What? And it was like,
like it was like the possibility even thinking that was
right. I never even
foreign.
Thought that before.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you even would have thought that was a possibility.
Yeah.
Without any outside influence to think that. That's something that is really, really surprising to hear from somebody who lives such a cloistered religious life, that's something that you thought was even a possibility, that the thought even crossed your mind as a possibility.
Like as if saying there is no sun.
Yeah.
Like you don't have that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't. And so yeah, it just like, it struck me. It like literally caused me to stop walking and to just hold very still and like move my eyeballs around in my head for a second. And, it was actually like a really terrifying thought. It was like all of the safety nets are gone. Like what possibilities does this even mean? And I just remember feeling really unsettled and scared, but also like, I gotta think more about this. And, I just remember I didn't even turn on the light. I just went into my dark room and sat on my bed and just like started thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more it really just clicked and made sense to me. And again, it was not pleasant or comforting in any way. It was very unsettling and scary. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of like weeks after this like occurred to me. Like I was just like in my mind, like, I can't be thinking about things like this. I'm going to go straight to hell. Why did I even think that? Until I finally just settled on it.
Well, did you look out like resources, other things to like look into
God, we didn't
like
have
for
the
research?
internet.
Well, no, you didn't have the internet, but I mean, just as far as like going to a library and say, hey, do you have any books on like religion or philosophy that I could check out?
Oh man, I wasn't that smart a kid. No, that never occurred to me really.
So can you think of any specifics where you said that, upon reflection that there may not be a God, it just seemed to make more sense? Was there anything in particular, anything that you could point to that, oh yeah, well, if there isn't a God, then this makes more sense? Or,
I mean, so I was 13 and so, I mean, I hadn't really had that much life experience or, I hadn't really even like started taking science classes or anything like that. But I started to frame more of my views with that context in mind. So like when I did start like taking science classes, for example, I was like, this makes so much sense and loved it. And,
like they're telling me something and then providing evidence to back it up.
Right. Oh my God. A crazy idea.
If I get rid of this one thing, this actually works out.
Yeah. But I guess if I think more about it, to your point, like kind of looking at other things like concomitantly in my life or concurrently going on and just being like, yeah, like if there's no God and all of this is just bullshit that my parents made up for some unknown reason, like, yeah, actually the rest of the world now makes a lot more sense. And yeah, I don't know. I can't think of good examples, but
well, and maybe it would be better to frame it on the flip side of that, to say, rather than, what was it that made more sense to you, after you maybe thought about that? What were there any specific things that you could point to and say, well, that doesn't make any sense? What was it that didn't make sense to you at the time, maybe after that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. How do I say this? all of the spirituality. I never felt
all
a
the
spirit.
mumbo jumbo.
I never felt a spirit ever. I didn't know what they were ever talking about.
I never got the burning in the bosom.
No, never had that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess if I'm honest, I'm not really a spiritual person. I know some people say that they are.
I'm
they
spiritual,
don't believe
but
in God,
not religious.
Yeah. But I wouldn't even say I'm that. Quite honestly, I'm just like hardcore logic, I guess. I like evidence a lot. But yeah, so it made sense. And, from there, I actually had a terrible year once I had this realization. And it coincided with my first year at middle school. And so I think that my parents were probably just writing off my behavior as, stupid teenager. But I started getting really angry at that point. Once I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. And I don't believe there is a God anymore. I really started rebelling pretty hard and just like, yeah. So it actually got to the point where my dad told me he was going to take me out of school, public school. And so I was like, oh shit, they still have power. I better be good.
They could still control my life. Damn it.
No, it's true that, so if you look at like my actual like school pictures from like 7th grade, I'm like, I kind of just look like a normal kid, not really rebellious per se, but just, like I'm trying to fit in and I'm being a normal kid.
Yeah.
But I think I snuck in, some clip-on earrings. Then my 8th grade picture, I was like, holy shit, I gotta be good, keep it together, make sure my parents like let me stay in public school. And like, so in that picture, I'm wearing long sleeves and a vest and like, you could just like, I remember putting on the outfit being like, yeah, my parents will like this. Like, long sleeves, pretty flowers on my shirt.
No mohawk.
No mohawk.
Oh, that's funny. Oh man. Yeah, when I was young, I went through a bit of a rebellious phase, but that was just, wearing a jean jacket, getting my ears pierced and having a mullet.
Man, I really wanted to get my
That was my
pierced.
super rebellious phase. I was kind of a straight arrow in high school. It wasn't until after that I did anything really bad.
Yeah. That's when you got into cocaine, wasn't it?
Hell of a drug.
I've never tried cocaine. I've always been terrified to try cocaine because I was afraid that I would like it too much. And I'm like, I'm just not even going to try it because odds are that I may just like it too much and then there goes my life.
They say it's a party drug.
So I hear, I don't know.
You have a good party.
I've been terrified to try it because I've just always thought that there's a chance that I might like it too much. And then I'm going to be fucking setting my hair on fire.
Well, you have a real gift of spinning goody two-shoeism into rebellious somehow.
Yeah. I mean,
I just think I'd like it too. I'm too hardcore for cocaine.
No,
I don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. There was just that fear
There's a
that
cautionary tale
that I could try it once and maybe just like it way too much and think, oh, well, I could do it again. It'll be fine. And, maybe a third time. That it would just be this slow descent into ruining my life.
Yeah, it's also kind of expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I grew up kind of poor, so that wouldn't have been very easy for me to do. Oh, there we go. Then your teeth fall out. You don't have to worry about going to the dentist.
Yeah.
Low maintenance drug right there.
Yeah.
You talked during you mentioned during your talk that you weren't able to go to dances or anything when you were younger, but your brothers were able to, and you mentioned that it was like men could go out and potentially recruit women to come into the group.
Yep.
But, women going out to try to recruit men to come in, of course, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But there's also a problem of if a man goes out to recruit a woman into the group, where polygamous marriages are going on, there's still going to be one too many men there, right? So did nobody notice the inherent problem with that either? That seems strange.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are really particularly smart or math isn't the best skill set there. No, I think there is that problem. And I think that kind of contributed maybe a little bit to, like, as we talked earlier, a little bit of like the shuffling around of different families coming in, leaving and that kind of thing too. But yeah, there was certainly was that disparity of men can do these things, women cannot do these things. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like, it makes no benefit to anyone if we let more males come in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't go to dances or, any of that.
Well, and women are just property anyway.
I know.
so-
I mean, what's the point of even paying attention? But no, actually, I have to, I'll tell you a funny story. I have to give, props to my brother. So when he definitely inherited my father's charisma. He was actually a pretty, for probably what everyone knew was going on in our family. My brother was actually pretty popular, and he did have a sense of fairness. So he was a senior when I was a sophomore in high school, and he actually facilitated me sneaking out to a dance once.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So he was pretty cool.
Way to go, big bro.
I know. Yeah.
What a stand-up guy. To talk about a little bit more of the darker side of things, you also mentioned during your talk that there were a couple girls, or women, I can't remember how old they were. No, they were girls at the time.
Yeah, 16 and 14.
That came forward and made accusations that they had been abused. I'm guessing it was sexual abuse.
Mhm.
I think you just said abuse, but I'm guessing it was sexual abuse, and that nobody believed them. And your father made a really terrible comment about that one time.
Yeah, I'll actually give you a little bit more detail on that comment my father made and horrify you even more because.
Awesome.
Yeah, because, it was actually my sister, and she's very open about it, which is why I will go ahead and put it on a podcast.
His older sister?
My older sister.
Okay.
And she has been very open about it. And it's pretty common knowledge what happened to her, in terms of my family, my siblings all know, and even her kids know because they're grown now. But, so she's always been very open about it. But what happened to her was she was raped when she was 16. And, what happened is she wasn't raped by, one of the polygamists, actually. So she had, against my father's will, gotten a part-time job.
That'll do it.
Exactly. So she had gotten a part-time job working at a daycare center, and she kind of established a relationship. She was taking care of, children at the center, and one of the fathers was a single father, and asked her to come over and babysit his kids for him, while he was out. And, so she agreed to, earn some extra cash and go do some babysitting for him. And he came back drunk and forced himself on her. And my sister, and he gave her a ride home. And my sister came home.
Well, it's the least he could do, right?
Right,
Yeah.
gentlemen. And my sister came home and told my parents what happened to her. And, I by no means was present for any of this conversation. This is hearsay, but, from what my sisters told me, my mother, basically shut down, could not emotionally handle it, left the room, crying in the other room. And my father just launched into a tirade against my sister and essentially said, "You weren't supposed to get a job. This serves you right."
Oh.
Remember before when I was saying I wasn't sure if my father was evil or what kind of personality
Sociopathic.
disorder? Yeah. Actually, I think I've decided now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
I'm
rough.
sure they had a great relationship after that. Your
Yeah.
father and your sister.
Unfortunately, my sister, started drinking, got into some trouble, moved out as soon as she possibly could at 18. She still graduated high school. But since, so she, oh my gosh, she had some struggles, and she definitely had the hardest time of any of us. Cause, once essentially she moved out and had no resources and just kind of relying on her boyfriend at the time and his family. And then, a couple of my brothers, moved out, but they had more support from other friends and things like that. But my sister struggled the most. And then she's an amazing woman, and she's turned it around. She's an amazing mother, amazing woman. And she, what happened is she then started taking us in as we were moving out.
I was going to say, you said she kind of turned into the external mother figure to help all of you.
Yeah, she's definitely like the mommy. And she, we made the joke that she runs the polygamy halfway house. So, yeah. So we all kind of took a turn, like moving into, she's the transition home. So, she kind of took us all in one by one because she, just understood better than any of us how hard it is. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And she saved probably a lot of you guys the heartache of having to learn the experiences, the hard way that she learned the first go around. And
yeah, absolutely.
This is Natalie Newell of Science Moms and the Parenthetical Science Podcast. You are listening to The Godless Revolution.
Well, Stan, it's all a matter of faith.
No, it's a matter of logic. If you're going to say things that have been proven wrong, like that the first man and woman lived in Missouri and that Native Americans came from Jerusalem, then you better have something to back it up. All you've got are a bunch of stories about some asswipe who read plates nobody ever saw out of a hat and then couldn't do it again when the translations were hidden.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, criticisms, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrevolution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGR Podcast. Thank you!
You also talked about one of the arguments, and I don't know if this is the same argument where you went to your room and didn't turn on the light and you contemplated that there may not be a God. But you said that you were in an argument with your father or both of your parents, I can't remember. And I can't remember exactly how you said that this all came about, but you said that you just wanted to be loved. You just wanted unconditional love. And can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I can't remember.
Can you believe me?
I can't remember exactly how that came about. But that
is now this.
You get one birthday cake and then you just think you should be loved.
You're so fucking special.
Yeah, this was a real conversation I had with my dad. And I was arguably a moody teenager who watched too many romantic comedies. But yeah, no, I was actually arguing with him about wanting to go to a dance and, trying to plead my case that, I should get to go to dances. I should get to be social. Like, my brother gets to go. Like, what the hell? And he just kind of yelled and was like, why? There's no reason for you to do that. What are you hoping why would you even want to do that? What are you trying to get out of this? What do you even want? And again, silly little teenager, told him love. I just want unconditional love. And he didn't actually say anything. He just spun around and walked over to his bookshelf. And he pulled a volume off of his shelf in his little polygamy library there. And he just flipped right to a page. So must have known it pretty darn well. And turned right to it, shoved the book in my face and pointed at the paragraph and said, read this. And, I said in my talk to you, I can't remember exactly what it said, but the gist of it was that, you cannot be loved if you're not loved by God and you don't love God. So essentially, God comes first and no one should ever unconditionally love you. It's conditional on you loving God. And so,
yeah, there's no such thing as unconditional love.
That's essentially
the condition is that you have to love God and He has to love you, and you need to live by His.
And that's the condition.
Yeah. Was that his way of saying, well, you don't love God enough, so therefore I don't love you?
He didn't say that, but he probably could have been thinking it. This is why I hate you. You argue with me. No, but that was essentially what he was trying to tell me is, get your shit together, love God, and then maybe you can think about finding someone who can tolerate you. But there's no such thing as unconditional love. So that's just not in your future. Get your head out of your butt.
That's so sad.
It's a great thing to tell to I don't remember how it was, 15 or 16-year-old girl.
And that's when the emotions are just, in good shape.
Yeah, not insecure, not vulnerable.
Yeah.
No, you're in the best emotional place in your life.
You know how to handle those hormones are steady and normal.
Right?
Wow. I can't.
So when's the book coming out?
Yeah, have you thought about writing a book or doing anything like that?
No, I don't know. It feels so I don't know, selfish and narcissistic for me to even like be talking about this. Just even with you guys and doing the talk for the Atheists of Utah at the library was like, my life wasn't that hard. I still managed to get here. It was needlessly difficult and, certainly could have been better, but there's just so many stories that mine just pales in comparison to. So it just doesn't really.
Well, but I mean, if you live with a person who cares more about being right than he does about the newly raped daughter, and that was your father, then I don't think exploitation or anything like that would be. I mean, you lived under that, so I think what if other people can get strength from your story?
Yeah, I mean that's the whole reason I ultimately agreed to do my talk, because I did feel like it was worth sharing in the sense that if I can, shed light on something that's really unfair and is oftentimes right under our noses, then it's a good thing to do. And, the more people that are aware and paying attention, maybe some horrible things don't have to happen.
Right.
So what are your thoughts about polygamy and polygamous marriages? I know a lot of people, who were formerly in polygamous, sects or cults or groups, leave it and they're like, no, it's terrible. Nobody should ever do it. It's awful and bad. And then other people leave and say it's awful and bad a lot of the time because it's been forced underground. It has been forced into dark and because people can't live their truth in the light and live out and open, it all becomes secret. And then because it's secret, it breeds this feeling of, well, because it's secret, we can get away with these other things because nobody's talking about it anyway.
Yeah, I think I can see both arguments. I can tell you how I personally feel about it, but I think that is an interesting idea that if it wasn't so subversive and secret, and kept underground like that, it does take on the more cult-like, sense and, all of the things that go along with that. But
what happens in the shadows? Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Just my own general feelings about it are quite negative, honestly. I try to be an open-minded person and I'm a pretty liberal person and I think everyone has a right to believe what they believe, but in the sense that can't adversely impact others. And I think that a lot of people say, well, religion is one of those things where people can believe whatever they want and they can, but I can't see any universe in which polygamy, the way it's lived right now, doesn't negatively impact children. I can't see it. Every child that I ever see, like walking through a grocery store and I see a polygamous family, I just get really angry because I'm like, those kids deserve better than what they're getting right now. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm really torn about it. I mean, on the one hand, I'm all for people being able to love who they want and form relationships with whomever they want. I don't know any way around, and especially if it comes through any theological belief that this is something you have to do as a requirement of your religious teachings,
right?
That you can separate that and not indoctrinate people into a lifestyle that may be damaging and harmful for them. If there were a way to perhaps separate the theological beliefs and requirement that you do it, and indoctrination into that lifestyle, and where it's just, a completely free choice of people to adopt whatever lifestyle they want and like I say, form relationships with multiple partners if they want and marry whomever they want. I think that would be totally fine, but it's just so hard to separate that religious indoctrination and teachings that it's a requirement and something you're supposed to do or have to do. And then of course all of the subjugation and oppression that comes along with that. It's a real sticky wicket. I don't know how to handle it.
That's the through line that we see with all these cases from all the people we talk to is that dogma is the problem in all of these, because then directly following that is what you said with the subjugation. You have consent issues. age barriers, all of this stuff follows the dogma that can't be questioned, and I think oftentimes people who are saying, well, it shouldn't be subverted. It should be out in the open. They're picturing like this hippy dippy utopia or whatever, which that's not how it's operated currently. Mm-hmm. That would be great, but,
so what I think I'm hearing you guys say is that polygamy would work great without religion.
Possibly.
Possibly. I was kind of making a joke there,
it definitely can't work with it.
It really can't.
Yeah.
I think I definitely agree with you.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. And
thank you.
Well, and to your point also that, well, and I mean, this could happen even in a monogamous relationship. If you have 17 goddamned children, you can't pay enough attention to the ones you have, right? They're going to be neglected just through sheer necessity of you don't have enough time to spend individually with those kids.
Like that 17 Kids and Counting TV show or whatever it got up. Was it 19 at the end? I don't remember. I think they had to change the number every year on that show.
But then they found out there was like some sexual misconduct going on in there too, right?
Oh, is that why that show got canceled? Mm-hmm. I just figured people got bored with it.
Could have been both, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's rough. So what's your relationship with your mother like now? Do you have a relationship with her? How is she doing?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. It's weird, honestly. It's damaged and it's going to need some time because quite frankly, I have a hard time forgiving my mother.
Well, so you left, right? You left,
right.
You left your parents behind, stayed with your sister for a while when you were 18.
Yeah, walked out the door.
You're 24 now, I'm sure.
Really close to that, yes. No, so I have, kind of these, I feel like my mother didn't do anything to help me. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I feel like she was, a partner in crime. That, she never did anything. It's crimes of omission, I guess, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I just feel like she never stood up for me. She never did anything to help me. She just let my dad do everything he did. Even though she didn't necessarily hurt me, directly. So I just have these like mixed emotions because in some ways I think my mother is very much a victim too. And I feel bad for her in a lot of ways. I mean, she was an 18-year-old girl, like cute, peppy, fun, like had so much going for her. And
she found this payphone service man. I mean, life was great.
Super charismatic.
Cha-ching.
Woohoo. Yeah. So, I mean, but really like she could have done so much and she could have had a very different life. Mm-hmm. And, once I did like walk out that door, I didn't ever talk to her. She never called me. I never really made an effort to call her either because she was stuck there and I was just trying to distance myself. And I never liked to go. I wasn't welcome in that house.
We're kind of shunned.
Yeah. I mean, I did go over a couple times to see my little siblings because, I missed them, but it was just like, I went over and it was like just awful feeling there.
What are you here for?
Yeah. I was just generally not very welcome, even though my mom was like, it's fine, come over and see them. But, so now that my father has passed away, it's very different. And I feel like my mom is making an effort to rebuild relationships with her children because all of her children left. They all moved out and she was raising wife number 2's children. Mm. And, so she's been missing out on her own children, on her grandchildren. And so, like I said, I have mixed emotions. I still have some hurt feelings, but I definitely, she is my mom and I love her and I, want to try to build a relationship with her.
Feel free to not answer anything you're uncomfortable with, but I want to push a little further in on that because I'm curious what she could have done.
I just feel like she could have like grown a freaking backbone, when, when my father is like berating us and telling us we're going to hell and like telling us we're basically garbage. Like she could have said something. She could have, even if it was after he left, maybe come back around and say,
maybe not tell your father that I said this, but you're a decent person.
You're actually okay.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know if she didn't think to do that or she like felt like that would be contradicting what the patriarch said.
Right.
I don't know.
I have a lot of the same feelings from my dad, who's very much a pushover. And right now I'm kind of in the place where I'm wondering if it was me as a kid, you know, how both your parents are superheroes and they're like, you know, they could do everything. And so you're looking at that thinking, well, just stop it.
Yeah.
Just, you know, but is that me thinking as a kid sees his parents, you know, and that's why I wondered with you, like maybe your mom maybe as an adult looking back, maybe your mom wasn't in the kind of position that you pictured she was in to do something more or something. I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm just feeling it out.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I fall on it either for me, but I was just curious what
No, you could be right. I mean, I think that you have a point that maybe she really, like, because of how she was and her personality and like her situation, maybe she really couldn't have.
And being abused
yeah, I mean, she was certainly a victim as well, like I said. And so maybe she literally could not have done anything. But it just, I don't know. It's just hard to believe, you know, like,
yeah,
like if anyone was mean to my little boy, like, I don't know what I would do.
And murder him.
Like, I just feel like now that I'm a mom, like, there's no way I would tolerate anything.
Well,
but again,
you've only
it's
got
just,
one kid, not.
I know.
Like,
he still thinks he's special because there's
just the one.
I'll have 16 more, and we're like, I'll get lost in the mix. No, so I don't know. It's I don't have a great answer, but it just, I don't know. I just have a hard time understanding what was going on in her head. But she was definitely not in a good place to do anything.
Right.
Well, to end it on a bit of a high note, what can you point to as a benefit? Not to condone anything that happened to in your life or your upbringing, and of course there were good times as well. But what can you point to as
sounds like a good place for a Prestige ad?
Godless Revolution brought to you by Prestige. But what can you point to as a potential benefit or something you learned and feel has made you a better person after going through this experience?
Well, it certainly shaped my personality and
which is just shit, by the way. I gotta say.
I'll never be loved.
No, I think you're fucking awesome. This is great.
Oh, thanks.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to intervene or she's going to resent me for the rest of her life.
You guys didn't stand up for me when Dan was being rude. No, I think there are definitely some positives. I think that I think the whole reason I strove so hard in my education and worked so hard at it is because it was something that that did give me a little bit of positive reinforcement. So my mom would tell me she was proud of me for getting a 4.0. My mom's mom, grandma, would give me a $5 bill every time I got a 4.0. And it was like, someone's telling me I'm good. So it definitely drove me to love to learn and to read and to just, grow in my education. Which, then obviously took me far. Happy with that. It taught me, to work hard. There's a lot of manual labor in my home. I don't know if it was really that we needed so much yard work to be done or that my father just needed ways of so many children.
Keeping you occupied.
Keeping us occupied and making us tired.
I figured laundry duty would do that alone.
But I did work, hard, like chore wise and that kind of thing. So I'm not afraid of hard work, good work ethic. And I think maybe most important was just a sense of self-reliance and independence. Part of it's because I was taking care of myself and little siblings. But in a sense of like emotionally and, I can support myself. I can take care of myself. I don't need a man to get me into heaven. I can earn my own way.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
for coming
having me
into the studio and talking with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
This
I appreciate it.
This has been a great time. It's a good show.
I hope I entertained you.
Oh, it's been a delight to have you here and to talk with you more about this. that'll pretty much wrap it up for us this evening. Can you stick around for some news? We're going to move into our Patreon section here in a little bit, cover a couple news stories.
Sure.
Awesome. All right. Before we go, I want to make sure that we thank our Patreon supporters. That would be Vanessa,
Roboto,
Michelle Short,
Christy Kalbach,
Newmania,
Alan Firth,
Gaytheist,
Larry Wilson,
Dr. Dan.
And what's the rest of that say?
Let them eat kofefe. Why do you do this every time?
Maybe I should rearrange it or something. I don't know. Let them eat kofefe.
Stephen Andrews,
Jeff Peterson,
Janet Uter,
Marius Kot-Buchakowski,
Utah Outcasts,
Tim Jacobson,
Matt Tuller,
Megan Kennedy,
Andrew Vodopich,
Brandy Hamrick,
Jeremy Goodson,
Angelica Pearson,
Wesley Aaron,
Savita Kuna,
Purple Dragon,
and Taylor Gran.
Thank you all very much. We really, really appreciate your patronage. If you would like to become a patron of the show, you can do so by going to patreon.com/godlessrevolution. Also, Facebook has started this new thing where they're sending me notifications for people who have liked posts that we have out on our page, but they haven't liked the page itself. So if you listen to the show, please go out and like our page on Facebook and follow us there for more information.
And if you send us Facebook messages, sorry we don't get back to you on them most of the time, because Facebook is a motherfucker.
Yeah, the pages manager is fucking bullshit. The way they handle all of that is a real pain in the ass. Like, you have to go out of your way to try to find information, and then sometimes you still can't get to it. When you get a notification that says, so-and-so sent you a message or liked this or whatever, you click on that and it takes you to just a page that gives you a summary of information about bullshit.
Or tells you need to log back in. You don't have rights to this account. I'm like, motherfucker, yes I do.
Yeah, it's kind of buggy and bullshit, but feel free to go out and like our Facebook page. You can join our community on Facebook as well. We have a private or separate secret Godless Revolution community that you can join and talk to other members who listen to the show and talk to us more directly. You can send us messages on Facebook. You can send us email at godlessrevolution@gmail.com. You can Twitter our twatter at TGR Podcast. Visit our website. We're all over the place. Please go out and rate the show on iTunes and Stitcher and wherever else you happen to gather and download your podcasting shoes. We would appreciate that. And you can call and leave us a message at 330-81-REBEL. And we'll play that on the air probably. and thank you very much for doing that. Thank you all very much for listening. Thank you, Shannon, again for joining us. We'll move into the Patreon section here in a minute. But until next week, crucify North Korea.
Leave a review to receive your second wife.
And rate the show 17 times a day toward polygamy.
Boogity, 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 amen. My microphone looks okay. Maybe a little hot. Maybe a little hot. Maybe. That's good there.
Yay! That was me.
I think you're hot, yeah.
I know I'm hot.
Sassy mofo.
No spiders, huh?
Not that I've found. If my ears start getting tickly, I'd freak out.
You heard what movie they're going to do a number 2 to, haven't you?
No.
Someone's going to shit to a movie?
Yep. 3 girls, 1 cup this time.
Mad Mardigan, save me!
That show used to creep me out, actually. When they all turned into pigs, it scared me.
Oh, yeah.
Freaked me out.
They're already in works to do number 3, but the bartender guy, he's not going to be in it.
TJ Miller.
TJ Miller. He got booted for all of his antics and his drunkenness and his terrorist threats and everything booted. Else.
Well, and
his assault charge.
Yeah. Well, and he was in.
Seems like he should run for president. Well, I just know I'm going to have a lot of
we don't go through and cut out the ums. That would be about
that
a
would
10
probably take
already.
forever, right? But if it was a really bad one,
if you sit there and go, then we might cut it out.
Okay. I'm going to make sure I do that.
But it might be funny too.
Yeah. Could leave it in there.
Yeah. You left a fart in one time, I think.
Yeah.
Because it was audible on the microphone, and we all acknowledged it.
It's going to happen
Keeping it
every now and
classy.
then, man.
Keeping it classy down here.
People.